In this episode of the IT Experts podcast, we talk to Stephen Murphy from NinjaOne, all about how to simplify your stack. Welcome to the IT Experts podcast, the only podcast to help MSPs scale to 1 million, and if already there, get to 5 and go faster. At the end of the day, isn't it all about building a business that works for you rather than you for it? I hope you enjoy the show. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the IT Experts podcast. And in this special sponsored episode by the amazing guys at NinjaOne, we're going to be helping you understand why having so much technology and so much stack is not going to be a great thing for your business. Now, Stephen Murphy, Senior Technical Advisor, welcome to the show this afternoon, Stephen.
Thanks for having me on the show, Ian.
No problem at all. So we're going to expel a few myths today around why, when people come into the MSP Growth Hub world, they've got so much stack, they've got so many different types of systems in place. And the reason that we're on the show today, and the reason the guys have reached out to me to help us to spread the message, particularly in the UK, is around understanding some of the changes that's gone on at Ninja RMM to NinjaOne, what that's all about. And we're going to learn all about that later on in the show. But before we do, Stephen, give us a little bit of a heads up. Who are you? What do you do? And who you help? And why have you been put in front of the limelight today to talk to me to help you guys out?
Certainly. So I'm actually from the MSP world myself. I had about 14 years, give or take a few months, running an MSP up in the northeast of England. I started out, your kind of beginning in tech, doing password resets all the way through to eventually being effectively CTO.
Nice.
So it's been an interesting one. I then jokingly messaged Jonathan saying, right, maybe we should work together. And here I am wearing a NinjaOne t-shirt.
Excellent. With a NinjaOne background, talking about NinjaOne stuff. So just explain to me, we're going to talk about what NinjaOne is a little bit later, but just explain to me kind of what's happened. Where was Ninja RMM? What was that all about? And then how has the whole NinjaOne thing all come about?
As you know, these rebrands kind of happen, especially as you build your organization, you've started changing direction. Obviously, one of the key messages we always get internally is that we're builders ultimately. We're not going to buy out and just kind of bolt on a feature or another business. It's key that we own it from start to finish, and ultimately that we understand it. We've implemented it. We can support it.
Yeah. I do like that. I do like that phrase. We've built our own rather than kind of bolted on other organizations. So okay, it was a rebrand, but what, in a nutshell, a couple of sentences, we're going to get onto the detail a little bit later on. What's the difference between Ninja RMM and NinjaOne?
So in terms of the tool itself, we have built on a number of features. So we're now looking at documentation being in there. That is now being expanded, add several features on. And ultimately, we're just listening to customers and what they want in the product. There are several, I always get quoted as Mr. NDA because ultimately, I know something or I've got a feature that would help. But in essence, we're just building naturally what our customers are asking for. So in terms of that, what we've done is effectively start out from scratch with every bit of product we've built in. And ultimately, it starts with speaking to your customers. So that could be an MSP or an internal IT provider. And essentially, we're just going to ask, what do you need? What do you use? How can we make you work more efficiently?
Yeah. So when we were talking previously about the podcast, Ninja RMM was one product, and now we're looking at like a single pane of glass, I think was your terminology. So what are the other solution stacks that you've got that are built into your system now?
Yeah, so we've still got the RMM. We're still actively working on that. After that, you're kind of looking into your managed antivirus via several vendors. After that, you're kind of looking at the kind of core functionality that every MSP kind of struggles with, your patch management. That's both your Windows stack and your, you're looking at your Mac estate. Linux is obviously on that as well. In terms of on those devices, you've also got your third-party patch management. That's something that is always kind of a struggle. And, the amount of times you'll go and say, right, what version of Adobe's on this endpoint? You'll go, oh, no, it's like a decade old. After that, it was kind of a natural progression to work into sort of ticketing, backup. We've got integrations with several providers for remote access as well. So it's kind of a one-stop shop between several functionalities.
Yeah.
Even documentation, it's still actively in development at the moment. We're adding features all the time. It's just nice to see a kind of natural progression of people are coming saying, I want to do something, or I need this platform to do something. You know, we scope it out, we build it, we test it, and then we get some excellent feedback from customers.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, look, you're going to really help me out here now, because I'm from a non-technical part of the world, and when MSPs come and work with us, we ask them, what stack you're using, what systems you're using, etc., etc. And I think the largest I think I've ever seen was about 16 different other softwares to help him run this business, and it was like, oh my word. And my kind of brain just fries at this. And we've got, we talk a lot in the Growth Hub about your happy place being an MSP, sorting out all the tech, but we also understand that when you keep getting distracted every time something either goes wrong, or it's not connected properly, or the API doesn't work, or simplicity does not come as one of the words in the MSP's toolkit. It's like, the more complicated I can make this, the happier I am, this sort of thing. And it's wonderful that you're from the MSP world and experienced in at a great level in that. And I just want to ask the question, why do MSPs have so many systems? What is it? Is it like a badge collecting thing, or do they start off with one and then think, oh, this is a new thing, let's just bolt this on? Oh, this is a new thing, let's just bolt this on. And then because we hear lots of areas that where they all start to conflict with each other. So what's your kind of view on why does this challenge happen in the space?
It can be a wide number of reasons. The biggest one I always see is, it's that typical, the customer is always right, or they need something and therefore I'm going to do it. So they'll just go out there, they'll find a vendor, they'll buy it and make it work. You can have that kind of single pane integration, or you can have these integrations between the systems, or you might have no integration at all, but ultimately you're adding more burden whenever you kind of add these items to the tech stack. I've seen MSPs with like 4 or 5 different antivirus vendors at the same time. I've seen 4 and 5 vendors for firewall. They'll turn around and say, yeah, we'll just do any type of switch and access point. All the way through to, on the complete opposite side, I've seen people who go, yep, I'm Cisco Meraki everywhere, or I'm using Fortinet, and they'll be diehard fans of a certain tech stack, and they know it inside out.
Right. So why do they keep the old ones hanging on then? Or do they go, or does the client say, I particularly want this feature that one antivirus will pick, for example, will have, and the others won't? And then they'll just bring that in for that client. And then the service desk will go, oh, this is good. Can we use this in more people? And then you've got certain brand A, B, and C stuck in so many clients and with others. Is that how it happens? And then you just breeds from there.
It does. So you can have old MSP plans. You'll have people who've been, break fix and don't want to migrate over to an MSP plan. You'll have people who'll be per user, and you're allowed to swap the stack out at any point without notice. But ultimately, people do just kind of get that familiarity with something staying the same, and they're used to a whatever shaped logo in the bottom corner that looks the same. It's always lit up with no alerts, or it's saying something very easy like, this is protected, and they're used to that particular logo.
We've got to have that, but that's the brand that we want rather than the functionality. So with this, I'm going to call it a bowl of spaghetti, and many potential API cross points, failure points, system points, whatever it is, not really knowing who you've got. One of the things we talk about is simplifying your solutions, bronze, silver, and gold, 1, 2, 3, whatever you want to call it, and then in the back office of that, it's got to be around simplifying your stack and simplifying your processes, because the easier a process is, the easier it is to scale a business, etc., etc. So how can having all of these systems and having, probably more than you so let me just think about this. So most MSPs are probably thinking, I'm all right, I don't really need to change any of my systems, it's working all right as it is. How does having multiple vendors affect their ability to scale?
Just the relationships is a hard starting point.
Yeah.
How many phone calls have you been on where you've got 10, 15 phone calls a week from different vendors, and it's like, hey, how are you doing, what's new in the business, etc. And ultimately, there is that relationship element to it, but you're spending time maintaining potentially dozens of vendors. Are you actually using them, or is this a case of, like you say, someone's been familiar with a certain tool, they like whatever brand they've seen or the functionality that comes from it? Yes, there's alternatives out there, but they just don't want to swap. And some people do just take that easy answer of, yeah, we'll just stick with it and sell it anyway. But you've now got to cross-train all your new technicians. You've now got to cross-train all the sales staff, because someone may need that in the future, or they may need to increase a license count, etc. It's a hard thing to kind of scope, because each business, each MSP is different.
Yeah, and I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head here. We asked one of our seven-figure MSP clients, we said, what does someone who's about 650, 700K, they've got this whole mental block at the seven figures. How do I get through it? I keep bouncing through it, then I bounce back, then I bounce through it, then I bounce back. And we asked them what was the one thing that that any MSP can do to help you break through and stay through the seven-figure barrier. And do you know what he said? You're going to love this. He said, building great vendor relationships. So if you're building a great vendor relationship with 20 different people, you're not going to do it very well. It's almost going to be like a scratch on the surface and, a call every now and then rather than it is. But and I know the companies that he was referring to when he was talking about that. And what I can see now is that what you've done here, bringing everything together, one relationship, isn't it? Which is what we're after to help scale and grow. So kind of answers our own question there, really, which is rather good. So that's good. Okay, Stephen, this might be a bit of a tricky one for you now. We always talking about ROI. Anything we do when we wake up in the morning, we want to make sure we're getting a return on the money or the time that we're investing in either training or spending or doing something. How can an MSP measure the effectiveness of their stack in an ROI perspective?
So you could go down the traditional model and you're going to look at the financial impact. And, this is where the cost and entry into the vendor relationship you'll always pit them against each other. You'll always go for the lower cost option or one of the cheaper options. And ultimately, is it the right decision? Have you made the right investment in the tool, investigated it, etc.? And I know this is subjective. We're not all security experts, or we're not all experts in RMM, PSA, or whatever the kind of tool of the day is.
Yeah.
But you've ultimately got to make sure this fits with your team and it matches. You could also do, how much time are you spending on a particular problem? How much time will you save with a particular tool, and evaluate that internally. But if you just ignore that and kind of jump beyond the raw figures or the financial and time implications here, if you look at the intrinsic value of the tool, how does your team feel about the tool? Are they dreading it? Are they liking it? Do they just prefer that they have a decent person on the end of a phone who will answer the questions? They're all different experiences. That everyone across the channel's got a different support team. They've got a different methodology. Please log a ticket. We're not going to deal with this. Or, you might get the complete opposite end, where you've got community members actively contributing a wealth of information. They're helping their competition effectively get to be better in this kind of ever-changing world. So the biggest takeaway I've kind of got from this is, there isn't a perfect way to measure this, but it's got to be the right way for you. Some people are always going to pick price. Others are going to pick, well, this is widely supported. Everyone's moving towards this.
Yeah.
And the biggest one for me is just feel comfortable around the tooling you're using. Make sure you're getting best practice kind of implemented. I know that's subjective in its own term, but are you happy it's configured properly?
Yeah, and that's a big one, because we hear that quite a bit, where the guys have brought something in and they go, oh, did you know that so and so system can do that as well? And it's almost like buying, when you buy a new car and you get all the gadgets and the toys, you're going, oh my God, look at this, is amazing. You sit there for the first weekend going, look at this, and the wife's going, are you going to come in from the car? No, I'm going to look at all this. And you're going, oh my God, it parks itself, and oh my God, it does this and it does that, and blah. And a week later, you just get in it, you drive to the shops and you come back again, and you kind of forget it. So I think there's a good analogy there that we could potentially use around how that would work with the stack as well. But making sure that you're engaging with your team as well, get their feedback. It's not just about you, the business owner who's bought this stack, who thinks it's going to make it easy, get all of the feedback as well, which I think is really cool and very important from an employee engagement point of view as well. Stephen, what sort of technologies? You guys must have been through quite a journey how long have you been with NinjaOne now, or Ninja RMM?
So as an employee, I've been here 6 months.
Right.
As a customer, I started back in 2016. So you'll appreciate it's been a number of years where I've been on the front lines with the
Yeah.
tool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a
So
bit
where
of
I'm
an
going with this is like the journey, the change that they've kind of gone through over, particularly, last couple of years, the pandemic and all that sort of stuff, and now through this, RMM to one. What do you see going on, in this particular space, in the, in the help desk, in the solution stack, in the automation space? What can you see? What's your kind of crystal ball projection moving over like 3 to 5 years and what you think is going to happen?
ooh, this is always a fun one because someone will quote me 5 years down the line.
Hey, you might be right.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest one I'm seeing right now, every MSP is now kind of asking out for some form of API or an automation or an integration. They want to work freely between the tools and take, they might have a very distinct bit of information they've got on one tool that they want to get over to tool B. And that would make their life it's so much easier. It would save them an hour a day.
Yeah.
So I see a play on kind of automation and being able to work with APIs that do just reveal this information. No tool's perfect on this. Everyone's got their limitations, but ultimately, I'm hoping the industry will move towards being a bit more open, revealing more of the information in these APIs and being able to pull from it. The kind of let's pull this from the kind of insurance and governance perspective.
Yeah, very important.
This is one that I've seen since I ever started out in the MSP world, that people want to be secure. They want to kind of have the best of breed solutions. They want to make sure
Yeah.
that what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, they're ultimately protected and that their customers have got faith in them. So I see a lot of this trust but verify going to happen. So we're seeing it from insurance providers now. They're asking, right, what are you updating your antivirus? Are you ensuring you're patched within 14 days? Cyber Essentials is playing massively into this in our space in the
Yeah.
UK. And being able to verify that, being able to check and validate that's going to be key. We're ultimately going to see this is going to come down from the government's perspective, and they're going to say, right, before you engage with us, you need to have X, Y, and Z in place. And unfortunately, if you don't, you're just not going to be able to engage at that level.
And I guess as well, you're gonna, there's this talk at the moment, isn't there, about accrediting and certifying MSPs because they're so important in an integral part of business. And I guess one of those questions is going to be, what sort of stack have you got? How does it operate? How do we know that you're going to run an efficient and a secure? I think that's more to the point. But MSP to be able to be accredited to that level, really. I mean, no one really. There's a lot of whispers about it, and I think it's an absolutely fantastic thing to do because I think it's going to sort out the serious businesses from the cowboys. I think I'll say who don't listen to this podcast. I'm absolutely fine with the fact we're not going to upset any of them. But no, that's a really interesting perspective there, Stephen. That's absolutely brilliant. Now I'm just going to hand over to you for an absolute. Well, I'm actually going to ask you this question: why should anybody care about NinjaOne? What's in it for them? What's in it for the MSPs? Here's your little blatant pitch.
So in terms of that, I do have to jump back on my experience as a Ninja customer. So from 2016 until early 2022, when I finally left, I had the joy of one of the best account managers I've ever experienced across any vendor. And I honestly, I would pick up a 5-minute phone call from Eustace and I would be on the phone for a whole hour and we would just, we would chat shop. It would be industry talk. What's the kind of comings and goings? And more than anything, I was getting background knowledge on how to use the tool in a better fashion. I was getting brought in for NDA kind of discussions. I was getting access to senior level management at Ninja. Even just to have Sal pop up on a call randomly and have a chat and just see how things are going. I'm a nobody from the northeast of England, and here he is.
Hey, no one's a nobody.
but this is seriously it. He just he jumps in, he has a call. You've got senior management jumping in, and it's a rarity these days.
Yeah.
I've experienced myself with vendors where you go to have a conversation and it just becomes a let's put it on the back burner, or you kind of get lost in that. The tool is great. We scaled our MSP from about 300 endpoints up to 2,500 as I was leaving. And in honesty, we didn't add any tech resources. We added
Wow.
one person to do service desk management in that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're using the right tools in the right fashion, you can scale quite a decent amount.
Brilliant. And I love that. I love that the thing that you've just said there, but you didn't say it, was about the culture of the business and people just jumping on and caring about the customers and having those great relationships. And it goes back to exactly what I was saying. We couldn't have teed this up any better, could we? About what one of my clients was saying about how do you break through the 7-figure barrier, get a great vendor relationship. So I challenge everybody now who's listening to this to go and test out what Stephen is saying. They may live to regret this. I doubt it, but they but go and test them out. And I think moving on into other things you guys have got going on, you've got a webinar with a great friend of ours, Paul Green, on the 25th of September. So if you're listening to this before the 25th of September, I thoroughly encourage you to go and click on the link in the show notes and go and see Paul and the guys. And he's running a session on how to win one new customer a month, which I am going to be on myself because I want to know what Paul's going to say. But Paul is an absolute expert in the MSP marketing space. He knows his onions and lots of other vegetables. If he's listening to this, I can feel him cringing right now. But that'll be a really great session. 25th of September, 4:00 GMT. You can click on the link below. How do people get in contact, Stephen, if they want to learn a little bit more about what you guys are up to?
So obviously follow along with Paul Green and the lovely webinar we're going to run, but separate of that, you can sign up for a free trial or you can get in touch in any of the communities. I'm pretty much around most of them at all hours of the day, and there's several community team members as well, such as Jonathan and Brittany. Separate of that, you can just email the typical kind of listings on the website, such as sales at, or if you want to go as far as the trial, I would just hit the big red button. Free trial, get yourself going for 30 days, and you know what? Try and break it. Try and kind of get your feel of how the yeah, exactly. Just use it, abuse it.
Yeah.
We're not one to charge as well for the professional services. We've got the sales engineers there. Just go and find out what we can do for your business ultimately.
Help simplify it, help bring it all together. And we're going to put all of the links on how to contact the guys, as I say, into the show notes as well. So these show notes are going to be quite long, aren't they? Stephen, thanks ever so much for your time this afternoon. It's been great fun, not only preparing for this podcast, but also holding it. And I'm sure you're going to find all of your colleagues back in the office who put you up for this. Absolutely, eternally grateful. It's been great actually working with all of you guys. It's been really good fun. So thanks again for your time today. Really enjoyed the show, and I look forward to catching up with you soon. You take care now.
Thank you.
So I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, I'd love it if you could leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. If you want to learn more about how to take your MSP to 1 million, or if you're already there, go faster, then come and join Stuart Warwick and myself in the Scale with Confidence Facebook group. The link is in the show notes. You go and enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.